gets a bad name when people say this is how we've done it before. Well, that just means you don't want to change. Well, potentially, but it also potentially is a signal of
you're stomping on an imprinted value. Welcome to Management Muse.
Because everybody deserves a better manager.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on Management Muse. I'm your host, Cindy Baldi, my co-host, Geoffrey Tumlin.
Yellow.
And today we are talking about how leaders make their mark, how founders make their mark, I should say.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about new companies, young companies. The subject of your dissertation, I might add.
Well, yes.
One of the subjects.
Yeah, not the actual specific topic, but
dissertation.
All
but you studied new.
Are voluminous. Yes.
Yours was more voluminous than mine.
We're talking about how basically long after an organization has moved on, that the founder's initial imprint can have long-lasting impact.
Yeah.
And I guess on the other side, we're looking at like the scenario where, this would be like the equivalent, if you listen to the other episode, this would be the equivalent of having a weak culture and having somebody come in who does everything to actually solidify it. Like you're coming in and you've got basically no constraints. It can be really what you want it to be. Yeah.
And especially in something that's brand new.
Right. Because that tends to be smaller, and the smaller, usually the easier it is to impact. And so that's what we're talking about today.
Yep.
Talking about some of those forces that basically lead organizations to sort of be similar to the founder.
Yeah. Carry on the founder's DNA for a while.
Yeah.
You want to give some famous examples and then walk it back into some of our own experiences of stuff that we've seen? I can think of two. I can think of the imprint of Herb Kelleher.
Oh, that's a good one.
At Southwest, the founder, along with, I forget the other guy's name, Rollin something. Or something Rollin. Anyway, but basically the CEO founder was Herb Kelleher, known for being
drinking wild turkey and smoking, I think, cigars in front of no smoking signs, something along those lines.
That's very true.
On the other hand, like knew everybody by name.
Yeah.
And that was pretty remarkable. And, sort of brought that fun nature.
Yeah. Kind of maverick. It became known as the love ethos, maybe at the airline.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but you can still feel
the stock ticker is LUV.
Yeah. You can still feel, they named their main airport Love Field. You can still feel some of that, even though he's, I think, been dead for 10 years.
And
he'd stepped away before that.
For longer than that. So, he's been gone for a while. And, you still have this, the Southwest videos online where they're so creative.
Yeah. So that's one kind of famous example. I think another one is the Chick-fil-A story. And the founder there was kind of a family man. I think his name's Truett Cathy is his name. And anyway,
I think you're right.
That we are going to have excellent service and do only one or two things very well. Like we're not trying to do 50 things. We're trying to do whatever, curly fries and a chicken sandwich. And we're going to take incredible care of the customers and that
and the employees.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, I don't know my Chick-fil-A history that well, but I think he's also deceased. And it's
definitely been, I think, family members who like his, Chick-fil-A also gets its share of negative press. And I think it's like related to family members, not the actual founder.
Yeah. So there's a reason why that happens. It's not because these people were amazing, though that may be true. The world is filled with amazing people. It's because, as Cindy mentioned, if you go back to the episode we've done previously on CulSure, you need conviction, which means people strongly believe in the values, and consensus, which means a lot of people believe in them.
Well, they have the same idea of what the values are.
Yeah. And that's just easier to do when you're starting out and it's three of you. It's the founder and two people helping who believe in it. than when there's 3,000 people.
Sure. So this is how the imprinting starts is, you have a founder, and if you think about it, unless it's like somebody who has just been in a lot of like top organizations, like somebody with an amazing track record or well-known, many founders are coming out of, almost nowhere in a sense.
Yeah,
and
sure.
so, to some degree, who's going to take a risk on them? Because like working for somebody, you're impacting your life in a significant way. You're taking a significant gamble on a person or a company. And so initially,
you're true believers.
Yeah. Initially, the people who are going to take that risk on a founder are people who probably know you.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not saying that this happens all the time, but oftentimes it's going to be people who know you. It's going to be people who have a better sense for you as a founder, as a person, and also, probably really believe in whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so because of that, and because we tend to attract people who are similar to ourselves, I know like the common thing is opposites attract, which that's not what the science says. Science says opposites might be attractive initially, but
90
then
seconds.
They drive you crazy
For the rest of your life.
And you are attracted to people who are either similar to who you are today or similar to who you would like to be in the future.
Take note, nerds, all you nerds thinking about dating one of these days, take note.
Yeah, Auntie Cindy says...
Auntie Cindy
says, find somebody you have compatibility with, and you'll be happy.
Yeah, go for compatibility, not opposite.
Not excitement with the opposites. Yeah. And again, like it's similarity even with, if you think about like present self versus future self, it's similarity with who you want to be in the future. That may be the differences that people think that they're attracted to, but we don't really like things that are all that different than us because it's indicating that something is wrong with us.
So this idea of the imprinting, it's very interesting to think about because a lot of people, if they're starting their own thing, their own side hustle that may eventually become something, as Cindy mentioned, which I think is important, the kinds of people who often will join you early on in a venture are similar. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they're kind of true believing fanatics. And so they're bought in to whatever that thing is that you're trying to do. I think in some ways we're a decent example. Basically,
I mean, look at our businesses. So I have a management PhD, you have a communication PhD, and our businesses are essentially the merging of the two of those.
Yeah, and we've hired Rebecca, our operations director, when we were nothing, when there was nothing going on, but she believed, she was a true believer. And so as we've added people, we've, I think, often tried to add people who, I mean, I'll take a stab at what I think our cultural values are. One, we're trying to have the output that we produce for the clients be, sometimes I use the word beautiful, but exceptional, very, very high output. And we're fairly self-critical when we fall short, try to lessons learned, but basically very high output. And the second is that we try very hard to take the client's needs into perspective.
We treat our clients like they're us.
Yeah. Yeah. And when things happen with travel, instead of it breaking against the client, we'll have it break against us. We'll take the money out of us. And so, there's a lot of other things that flow from there, but our cultural values are extremely high work product. And then
treat others how you'd like to be. But like we treat their money like it's our money.
Yeah.
And since we're tight with their money.
That was embedded in Rebecca. She was attracted to that even before us. And so we didn't make her that way. She was already similar in that kind of.
And she's able to stick around because it works well.
We hired Rebecca because this is actually a good story about values. And so you take our small company, and we've been around now 19 years. And in the beginning, there was nothing, just this kind of idea. And Rebecca was a client. She was actually our boss. And
one of many.
yeah, we're, doing a lot of different projects. And after a session that we did, a training session, and after, people had said goodbye and all that, she came up and I said, "Hey, what do you think?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And I said, "Well, is there anything you think we should be doing differently next time?" And she said, "Well, do you want to know?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And normally people have nothing to add. The feedback isn't very good for a variety of reasons, but mostly because people aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about the experience. But also after a while of doing something, it gets very hard to get feedback at the level of the content, because not a lot of people understand how it's put together. And so she starts giving the feedback and basically talked uninterrupted for about 3 minutes. And everything was on point. It was probably 4 important things that I needed to take into account, 2 of which I hadn't even considered. And as she was talking, I remember thinking, I have to figure out how to hire this person. And she was the first person we hired. And that's because she was demonstrating that alignment of exceptional work product. Mm-hmm. And that value we didn't give her. She had before. That's why we selected her. And then it was a perfect fit with what we're trying to do. Kind of value 1, exceptional work product. Value 2, don't screw the clients. Take care of the clients.
And she definitely has that as well.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And so that's what happens is that, when you first found an organization, you are the one you're selecting the people who are coming in. Eventually,
sure. Gets too big.
It gets too big. Yep. It gets out of your hands. Then it's really like that whole force of similarity attraction then starts to fall on whoever you selected to be the person selecting people coming into the organization. Now,
right.
And you can see how there's an indirect path back to the founder even
sure.
then, because if the founder chose you to be selecting people, then very likely they chose you because of the similarity.
Yeah.
And so, we have that also with Rebecca. She's choosing people and, she chooses people to be our contractors and spend some time working in our company. And she's a good extension of us and who she chooses.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now play that forward. And so we have this company, it's a very small company that we've built that basically is, there's consensus and conviction. Again, it's easy for us.
We're tiny
to be able to say the product is going to be exceptional and we're going to take care of the clients. We're not going to screw the clients. Our business is working with many, many, many companies. A number of the people we work with in joint venture type stuff think that we're insane because every time they send something to us, it comes back with like 10 corrections. Like if you're sending, but that is our company. Every time we do a session, even if it's a topic related to what we've talked about, it's not the same. There's notes about what we're doing differently, and the next one won't be like the last one. Mm-hmm. And so if you're sending me something to review,
expect that it's going to get gutted.
Expect a gigantic first round of changes. And then if you, heaven forbid, send it back, I'll give you another 10. And I know that that's weird to a lot of, or I guess we've learned that that's weird to a lot of other companies, but that's not weird to us. It's truly one of our, I dare say, 2 cultural values. And it's an area where when we do things with other people as partners, we have to navigate that because it's distinct. It's a longstanding mode of operation. We're talking about new small enterprises where you're often likely to basically come out of the gate with a strong culture that's probably going to be a clone of the founders. And so our company is a clone of us. Mm-hmm. We're clones of each other we added a third clone. And now as we've added people in and other consultants and other people who help us, they're like that as well. Partly because we're selecting for that, but partly because anybody who gets added in is having their molding from one of the three of us.
Right. And if you don't have that same kind of bar, you're going to leave, or we're going to move you out. One or the other.
You're going to go insane.
Right.
This episode sponsored by CulSure's Organizational Health Assessment. It's a lot more than employee engagement. It's engagement, culture, communication, and how your organization is doing right now. If you want to know how things are going inside your company, call Cindi. CulSure, CulSure.
That's S, not T.
Not T. CulSure, CulSure.com, and she'll get you measured up. We're lucky, culture-wise. We're very small, and we're able to continue to imprint those values.
It's been a challenge for us too, because
Sure.
as we've tried to do more things, you start to run out of time.
Yeah, and as we add people, some of the expertise we need, we have to train. Obvious examples are sometimes we find people who are very good, but because they're very good, they're found a way to make a lot of money off their clients, which we're not opposed to making money, but we're not running a like a chicken farm where we're just raising hundreds of thousands of chickens and shipping them off every 2 weeks. And so we'll have to slow people down sometimes.
And so that's one of the ways in which basically the founder gets imprinted. And you know, that's not only just in the selection, but then it's also in the processes that are developed, you know, like the going back and forth with the editing that Geoff was talking about as an example. Like there's a process that things have to go through, and they reinforce the values, and those start getting built as more people come on, because you have to have processes when you add more people. And then, you know, the reward system starts to reflect that. And so that you start to basically have a system that is reinforcing that, all derived from the founder. And so that those are the main mechanisms in which a culture starts to come about. But it's really hard when you first start an organization. Like it's easy to think about like your values in terms of how you're doing, like you just sort of naturally operate, but communicating those values often takes some time to figure out and some circumstances to go through. And the other thing that makes a new organization unusual is like that's the time where you tend to go through a number of crises. And so those crises are, each one is an opportunity where basically your values get tested.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, we went through COVID, and, you know, I remember, because, you know, in the very beginning, everybody was afraid. I mean, like, I remember, you know, coming in and, you know, basically stripping down at the door and washing everything. Like, you know, like, just like everybody else.
We were working in hospitals.
Right.
Yeah.
And
during COVID.
And I remember
and police,
when
fire departments.
This whole thing, when everything was closing down, we had the conversation. We're like, if our clients are open and want us,
that's right. We're going.
We're showing up. Because they're not in this alone. Right.
Because again, many of our clients were first responders and I think at the time, first responders, hospitals, and even we had a food company.
Right.
Yeah.
And
the car company.
And the car company, yeah.
It was deemed essential too there.
Yeah.
They love that.
And so essential. And so that's like, so we're in the middle of a crisis that isn't like unique to our organization, but we're in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah.
And it's that value coming out that we're going to treat our customers like us.
We're going to a hospital and convening the nurses. If they're open, we're going.
And open, and they want us.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody did. But yeah, I remember that conversation. Like it was a very brief conversation that we had, and it was me and you, and then with Rebecca, like, of course we're doing this.
Yeah, it wasn't really even a discussion. It was just vocalizing.
Well, right. The planes aren't running. We'll have to figure out how to get there in cars. But of course we're doing it. This is the job. And then we were off.
Right.
And it didn't.
And so as a result, that value then gets further reinforced. Like every single time you go through a crisis and you use these values that you say that you have, because it's just like everything else. You don't really know what you are until you're faced with a situation that challenges it. And a lot of organizations will say, we believe in this. And then they start having financial times, and it turns out they believe in performance. And and that's like the erosion of the values over time. So if you're having a crisis and you're not exhibiting behaviors and making decisions based on those values,
exactly. Yeah,
you're eroding it, because legitimately you're saying to everybody, well, I guess I really didn't believe that.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, if you're a founder and you like new organizations just tend to have survival issues until they get on their feet. So that you just have a lot of opportunities to have crisis. Plus you don't have any other times like there's not a history blocking. So as an organization gets older and the founder's imprint is there, well, you have a bunch of people and a bunch of process that basically has been constructed around the founder and what worked through all the, the history of crisis that has happened. And now you have a new one and you have a different leader and they're like, oh no, we got to handle it this way. And everybody in the organization's like, I'm not doing that.
Right. That's not how we respond. This is how and it gets a bad name when people say this is how we've done it before, because they're like, oh, well, that just means you don't want to change. Well, potentially, but it also potentially is a signal of
you're stomping on an imprinted value.
Yeah, these are the behaviors that we've had over time. And we're facing another challenge. Why wouldn't we keep going?
Right. Yeah. We know this works. We know this behavior works. Why wouldn't we keep doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. So the culture matters, as we've said before, because it's a unifying mechanism. You don't have to have a ton of conversations. Now again, we're a small company, but we didn't have to have a 5-hour-long COVID strategy session. It was about 30 seconds on a phone call, me, you, and Rebecca, at the start of COVID. And one of us, I don't even know who, could have been even said, of course we're doing this. We can't leave now. This is exactly the kind of thing that people hire us for, and now it's hitting. And then everything else was about, all right, there's no planes flying. How are we going to make this work? The rest was, the conversation may have lasted for an hour, but only 30 seconds of it was actually the big meaty part. And then the rest of it was managing the details. And that's what culture can do. And in these smaller companies, with the benefit of a founder and some true believers, for good and for not so good, you often start off with a strong culture. I mean, to me, Uber is the classic example of this, where they started off, Travis, what's his name, Kalanick or something like that?
I don't even know.
Travis K, something Kalanick, something like that. Travis Kalanick, young guy, aggressive, smart, great idea, hired a few other aggressive, smart people. And then they basically were like, we're just going to take over and we'll sort out the niceties of this later. And that worked and made Uber a thing. And it worked until it didn't. Until that, I think they call it a bro culture, that kind of frat party culture, until you run out of frat boys, metaphorically, that you can hire. And the companies now, instead of just being 10 people who you're all interacting constantly, now you're spread, your operations are across the globe, at some point, Uber began hiring people who rejected their culture. And that will often cause problems.
Right.
And as you get bigger,
That's
that
gonna
happens
happen more.
with more frequency.
Yeah.
You try not to.
You try not to, but,
Yeah.
When you think about the whole interview process, even with like a very long process, it's still a very small amount of time to get a sense for somebody.
Some of our clients are so big that they're having to hire a dozen people every couple of weeks.
And at that point, you're not able to be selective. And some of our, and in some of the places, the companies we work with are where they're located, they don't have a huge pool.
Yeah.
And so you can't always operate where even if you are part of the decision-making process, you're able to basically select what would be ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an example and kind of a shout out to some people we work with, Nate Self and Jason Torzinski at Previous. We work with them. They're great. Also impeccable, kind of taking care of clients. Yeah. Yes. Very. And that's one of the reasons we're drawn. And the others, it's just amazing guys. But anyway, you go back to this idea of kind of scale. And at the height of the Iraq and Afghanistan conflict, when we needed a surge of troops, they weren't available. We needed more troops as a country. They weren't available. And so the military had to do something. The Army had to do something that it typically doesn't like to do. It had to lower its basically IQ scores. The Army has an IQ test. It's called the ASVAB, but basically it's an IQ test. And, they try to keep it within, you need to score this minimum to be in the Army. And they actually dropped it for a period of time. I don't know, so many months, maybe a year. And they know from historical precedent that when you drop it, you start picking up a lot of other problems, a lot of misconduct, a lot of disciplinary issues, et cetera. And fast forward a year, and there begin to be these misbehaviors. And part of what Nate and Jason's company did was went into Army units and did values training to literally remind people, these are the values of the United States Army. This is how we act. And one way to think about this conversation we're having is there's some things where you're very lucky to be small. And culture is one of them.
Well, it's easier, but then, we mentioned Chick-fil-A earlier, and love or hate Chick-fil-A, that's up to you. But they have what you were just talking about with Nate and Jason, like their system of actually bringing in, they don't call them operators,
associates or something, partners,
something like that. But somebody who, if you want to own a Chick-fil-A store, it's, first of all, you got to fit a specific criteria.
Yeah.
And they're going to interview everybody. It's actually remarkable because I haven't looked at it in a number of years, but it's actually pretty inexpensive to own a Chick-fil-A. The challenge is getting them to allow you to do it.
Yeah.
And so you have to fit a certain criteria. Then they interview everybody, your neighbors, your pastor, like everybody. Because if you can't run your personal life, they're not giving you a store. And then it's 2 years of training. And then you might be allowed to actually have a store.
Yeah.
And when you have that level, so like that's unusual for what we would call a franchise, even though technically it's I'm not exactly sure what this is. I think they own all of them.
The company actually owns the stores.
Right.
Yeah.
But, that's a company that is determined to basically reinforce their values.
Yep.
And what we usually see is the opposite. I know everybody also loves Krispy Kreme, so let's bring them into this conversation because fortunately they unjacked themselves. But when Krispy Kreme,
expanded,
it first really hit.
Yeah.
Because there was a time period where Krispy Kreme existed for a very long time.
Yeah.
and nobody really knew about them. I
The
remember
Southern
my
thing.
mother discovering them, and she was like she'd found the Holy Grail. She bounced into the hotel room. She's like, these are the best. And
So good.
and then she was also like there at the IPO. So my
She
mom
was.
was a true believer.
She was.
But that when they did the IPO, they were on like a growth stretch where, you know, $1 million to own a Krispy Kreme at that time, long time ago, just to be able to have one. So there was a barrier, but it was a money barrier, not a values barrier. And turns out there are a lot of people who can get $1 million, and they grew so fast that they were encountering this problem where, like, look, you know, you're not doing any sort of vetting. There's no sort of restraints on culture, and you're growing so fast that you actually don't have the process and you don't have the ability to select people who would fit any sort of core values that you have. Yeah. To the point where at one point, if my recollection is correct, and I think it is, Krispy Kreme basically said, we're stopping. We are coming off the rails and we need to get back on track.
Yeah, I think Starbucks had a similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good example. Yeah, it's, you know, it's a fun line of work that we're in because it's humbling also because everybody's working a jigsaw puzzle. Like Oliver Burkeman, he says kind of managers want to talk about, I can't believe I have all these problems. I wish they would go away, but the problems are the job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you say that a lot.
Yeah, and the culture is very interesting because it matters.
Because it actually takes away a lot of problems.
As a coordinating mechanism.
Yeah.
As a way of helping people be on the same sheet of music, which is wickedly hard in a company that's dispersed doing a lot of things. But every company is different. And one of the fun things that we get to do is just to see people doing their best with the ingredients that they have to try to serve their customers, to try to help keep their staff motivated, and to do good work for the employees and for the people they serve.
All right, that's it for this episode. We want to thank everybody for listening. We want to give a special shout out to Auntie Bev.
Yeah, we do, Auntie Bev.
We love you very much.
We do love you very much.
We appreciate that you're out there. And
listening to every episode.
Yep, she's our super fan.
Yep, and Mike Granberry.
And Mike Granberry.
That's
He's our
right.
super fan too.
2 super fans. And who was the guy with the handle from Alabama? The Instagram handle? Poop Train.
Something.
Poop Train 74 or whatever.
Electric Poop Train or something like that. I don't know. It was a fantastic handle.
Yep.
So we do appreciate you. We appreciate all of you.
Yeah, we do.
And anything you can do if you enjoyed this episode, then, you know, give us a subscribe, like, share, comment.
Yep. Do something.
All that helps. We appreciate it.
Alrighty. See you later.
See you later. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on Management Muse. We are a podcast / YouTube channel that we hope is entertaining and educational. If you are on YouTube, we would appreciate you subscribing and maybe leaving a comment and a like. If you are on any of the podcasts listening to this, we would appreciate stars, following, comments, all the good stuff. We want to say thank you to Sarah and Rebecca. And then just as a last minute reminder, we also want to mention that we are management and communication professionals working in the field, but also have degrees that back us in science. All that being said, we are talking in generalities on this podcast. We do not actually know your particular situation. So proceed with common sense and maybe a little bit of experimentation on your end. And we hope that you make the world a more beautiful place by making work a more enjoyable place. See you next time on Management Muse.